Welcome to Blood Moon Milk, the astrology show that comes out every new and full moon to help guide you on your mindfulness, meditation, and manifestation journey. I'm your host, Aurora, and today I am joined by Ray Calnan. She's a spiritual guide and healer who helps people reconnect with their divine presence, embrace their soul's purpose, and take charge of their destinies. She uses angelic Reiki, guided meditation, past life and future life progressions, along with oracle cards. Ray likes to empowers to heal deeply and transform their lives to create a future filled with abundance, love, and fulfillment. Ray, thank you so much for making time to join us here on the show today.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. I was on your show not too long ago, and so we've met previously, but for listeners to my show who have no idea who you are other than the little bio I just read, why don't you tell us a little bit about the beginnings of your journey, how your eyes might have opened to things that other people don't always sense and see and feel, but you know are real.
Yes, certainly. So my story actually starts in my childhood. I'm actually quite blessed to have a really happy childhood with parents who were spiritual but not religious. So me and my sister were never christened, baptized, anything like that, because my parents were really kind of like open to you can choose what you want to be when you're older. But my mum did psychometry and palmistry. My aunt did tarot. And my dad was quite happy driving my mum to spiritualist churches. And obviously, being children, me and my sister had to go along as well because you can't leave children indoors by themselves. So I spent a lot of my childhood in that environment. And I was always aware of energies around me, and as I grew up, I dabbled in runes and tarot and, and various other things. But then obviously teenage years take over. Um, and, you kind of like get into boys and school and friends and everything like that. But what's really interesting, my school friends still knew my background, so I've never hidden, that I'm interested in all spiritual things. And at one point during my schooling, my classmates decided they were going to do the Ouija board. And they said, "Oh, you're going to do it?" And I said, "No, I'm not interested. I've never been interested in the Ouija board." And they said, "Well, can you come and make sure we're safe?" And that will tie into something that I'll mention later about when we look back at our childhood and gifts and talents that can help us in the present. And friends at school would give me bits of their hair to take to my mum to do psychometry, about boyfriends and all that kind of thing.
But,
But I started,
oh,
yeah, go
sorry.
on.
I just to clarify for people who might not know, psychometry is really interesting, but it's basically when you pick up an object and you intuit information about the owner or the history of that object based on just touching it alone, right?
Yeah, that is psychometry, and you can also do it with a personal thing. So, like, if you were to cut a bit of your hair and give it to someone to do psychometry, they can actually use their clairvoyance to maybe predict what's going on around you. So it can also be used for predictions. They'll pick up the what's going on around you and possible things in the future. So yeah, so my friends at school quite often wanted to know about boyfriends and the usual things that teenage girls want to know about.
Yeah, not surprising at all, having been a teenage girl. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just wanted to
No, no, no.
fill
No,
that.
that makes absolute sense. Sometimes I forget when I start talking about these things that there may not, and people may not be aware. They know the main things, but there are little things they might not be aware of. So I started work and I wasn't really doing anything with it. I knew there were angels around, and spirits and all that. And it wasn't until I had a particular card reading, tarot reading, and the reader said, "Oh, I can see you going on a life-changing trip by yourself." He said, "I think it's going to be somewhere like Sri Lanka." Didn't think any more of it. after the reading, but thought, oh, maybe I might, I'll just have a look at the Lonely Planet. I mean, we're going back in the days when the internet was really just starting up. So it was early days of the Lonely Planet. So I went online and they um, went to look up Sri Lanka, but they had an article on Peru. And I read this article in Peru and thought, oh, that sounds really good. Then a few days later, I turned on the TV and there was a Stephen Fry documentary on Peruvian bears. Now, because of my background, I knew about synchronicities, and it's like, oh, Peru, when I wasn't looking for it, then this, maybe there's something in this. So I ordered some brochures because even though he said I was going traveling by myself, I kind of like don't want to be just willy-nilly go around there. I want to go with an organized tour, go by myself, but with a group of others. Anyway, got these brochures back, and I'm looking, I'm going, I can't afford this. Traveling around Peru was not cheap. So I thought, never mind. So I put it to one side. Then sometime later, I had to change mortgage companies, and there was a mix-up over the mortgage. And I got compensation, the exact amount of one of these tours, the exact amount. So I booked it. And then just before I was due to go, the girl I was working with in the office, her grandfather passed away, and she was clearing out his attic. And when she came into work the next day, in his attic, she had found an old Peruvian map and an old Lonely Planet Peruvian guidebook.
I just got chills like when you said that. Oh,
I know it was just, and there were 11 other people on this tour with me. And I mean, there were Canadians, Americans, Irish, European, English, but all 12 of us just gelled. It was like we'd all known each other. And even our guide said this was the first group he knew. I had, in the 6 years he's been doing that all were rooting for each other, all felt like they were one. Lots of different things happened during the trip, but the main one was after doing the 4-day Inca Trail. Obviously, you get up to Machu Picchu, and I was standing on one of the platforms, and I looked down. Only lasted a few seconds, but I literally went back in time and saw myself dressed as an Incan, addressing Peruvian Incan people below me, and it was like, oh my God! I was just like, wow. Anyway, I've come back to England, so it's October. So in England here in October, by 3 o'clock, it's dark, it's miserable, it was rainy, it was stormy. And I was sitting in the office in front of the computer and looked out the window and thought, I would rather be out in that than sitting here in front of this computer. And then things just started to sort of like, again, synchronicities. I came across angelic Reiki. That led me to learn it, and then to practice it, then to teach it. Guided meditations came in. The tarot cards turned into oracle and angel cards. And then as I met different people, I got to find out about past life. Well, I was always interested in past life regression. So I trained to be a hypnotherapist because I thought you had to do that to do past life regression. It turns out you don't have to. But then I found future life regression and past life regression, so I trained in those. And that all, just sort of like amalgamated into my business, Radiant Angel Energy. They then led on to the podcast and all the work I do now, and a program, a Soul Path Discovery program, bringing everything I've learned together that's going to be launching on the 4th of May. Has literally all come to this, and it's just when you look back, it's just amazing about all the synchronicities. And I think of the ones I knew, but I'm thinking, what synchronicities did I miss that could have, changed things or made things bigger than they are at this moment in time. So yeah, I've been really, really lucky. I didn't have that dark night of the soul that some people do have.
mhm.
I'm I mean, I did have, I mean, I don't know if you ever suffered from it, but I had imposter syndrome at one point.
Oh yes, I've definitely had that. When I was younger and I was in my second job out of college, I went to school in England, so I'm very familiar with those October stormy, rainy days. Um, but when I moved back to America and I got my first job in television, I was working on a really cool animated primetime TV show, and I was working with seasoned veterans in the industry, and I think I really sort of psyched myself out of a career a little bit. I mean, I like because I was like, oh, I shouldn't be here. Who am I? I just graduated. These people are so much better than me. And I really sort of shrank myself energetically for quite some time because it just felt like somebody made a mistake and let me in. And then I got to stay for a while, and I think that industry in general has a lot of toxicity around it because of the way it's been managed and the way it compensates its artists for its time. But I don't want to go into that. But I've definitely felt imposter syndrome and just been like, who made the mistake and let me in? Like I shouldn't be here, but then you are here there, and it can be a real mission to just overcome those feelings of self-doubt because at those moments you end up being your own worst enemy. And nobody
Yeah.
can sabotage you worse than somebody who knows all of the buttons to push. And it's really something that I think a lot of women go through more so maybe than men. Um, because I think men are sort of taught to just like go for it, like, and ask questions later, where women were kind of taught to be much more cautious, and to be more self-critical and think about everybody else first. But putting ourselves and our own wants and needs and desires first and foremost in our lives is actually pretty critical. And it's something we have to, I think, learn to do later on in life at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And mine manifested in that there was so much going on at this particular time. So we are going a few years ago, where it was sort of like to be enlightened, to be psychic, to be in this field, you had to have had, hit rock bottom, sitting there crying, universe, so well, whatever, why am I doing this? And it's like, but I've never had that. I've had a blessed childhood. I've had all this stuff. So maybe I'm not spiritual enough because I've not had this thing that everyone kept going on. You had to have. Um, and then I had a reading with somebody, and what I realized was I didn't have to have that in this lifetime. You don't need to have that. I've had over 300 previous past lives, here, there, everywhere you can imagine. I have gone through everything that you can imagine, death, birth, persecution, everything possible in previous lifetimes. So I didn't need to have it in this lifetime because that's not what my role in this lifetime is. It was to come in fully formed with all this information, this knowledge, so that I could get my message out there and help guide people sooner rather than later. And when that clicked, it was like, oh yeah, I don't need to have had that dark moment of the soul to do that. And the more I work with people, there's a lot more people that haven't had these great big changes in their lives, that have just sort of like, stepped into it. That's not to say that back in 2022 that I didn't have the rug pulled out from under my feet, because I certainly did. I've had all this blessed thing, but there was a lesson that the universe was trying to give me, that I needed to make a change, and I wasn't listening. So it said, okay, we're going to make you listen. We're going to force this issue on you. And that's what they did. And I went through that sort of like, oh my God, despair, tears, anger, everything. So I have experienced it, but it was for my own, for something personal to me, not for me to get onto the spiritual path. It was just a lesson for me. So it's really interesting when you start looking at it.
I wonder if it would have coincided with any of the major astrological cycles, because we all have, Saturn cycles, Uranus cycles, Neptune cycles, more so than just we celebrate our birthday every year, and that's a solar cycle. We have our solar return right around the time of our birthday. But I wonder if we were to look at your chart, we could have pinpointed what, when, how, what the themes of the situation might have been before it unfolded for you. Or even in hindsight, and we could look at it and sort of understand, oh, well, this harsh angle would have created some friction. And a lot of times, that's one of the things I love as an astrologer, is to be able to give people those heads up moments before the shit really hits the fan, to like help people to I mean, some things are just unavoidable in life, but other things, if there's a bit of foresight and like, oh, well, this time period's going to be really rough, let's like be extra cautious and conservative because accidents are just more likely. You can really kind of curb the fallout from some of these, harsher aspects and transits if we're paying attention.
Yeah, I mean that would have been absolutely perfect, but it did mean that I actually got more of an interest in astrology. I mean, I've always, been there, but after, December 2022, it's like, okay, let's maybe look at some astrology. Which is how I got to know more astrologers, including yourself. And it is absolutely fascinating with how the stars line up. Hence, when I'm talking about my launch on the 4th of May, an astrologer friend of mine has looked at my chart and said, that's the perfect day for you to do it. So rather than me thinking, okay, should I do it on this day? I mean, to be quite truthful, I'd actually thought about the 5th of May. So subconsciously I'd kind of like picked it up, but exact time and everything that I need to launch, because that's when the planets in my chart are all aligned perfectly. So, it's great that I can actually start doing things when the astrology says it's the ideal time to do it.
Yeah, and we are in I believe the 4th of May is probably going to be better in general. I think the next day we've got planets starting to go retrograde, but this whole year we only have a 3-week window, and we're in it right now between the end of April and I think it's May 4th or 5th, when there are 0 planets retrograde. Now, planets, there are, asteroids and other bodies that are retrograde, like I know Black Moon Lilith, I think, is retrograde right now. But planets being direct all at once. So that, I mean, it's a very, very brief window, relatively speaking, to the rest of the year to actually make strides forward and get stuff done. So I love that your subconscious picked up on that for you. Um, I think that, when we have there, I, how can I do what I do without being a believer in divine cosmic timing? Like I really do believe that there is a time for all the things to happen that we're on this planet to experience or to be a part of or to catalyze, because we're in a period, especially now, not just with all the planets being direct, but like in this cosmic period of a lot of change happening. And we've been in it since November, but it's going to start getting faster, 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 and even more um, sort of historically significant as this year continues to unfold. Um, and so I do think that it's important for all of these light workers and people who are sensitive to the unseen energetic tides of the universe to fight for what they believe in politically and to stand up for the people who don't have as much of a voice and to help usher in a better tomorrow because we're in the middle of things falling apart and they have to sort of fall apart before we can rebuild with consciousness and integrity because that's what I think is coming next. But we have to see it crumble first.
Yeah. And again, it's that time now also where because things are crumbling, people are actually looking more at spiritual, things, how can I align to my higher self? How can I step into my authority, my autonomy? How can I trust my own intuition? And I think with all the chaos and everything that's coming on at the moment, that's giving people the chance to do that, to actually think, oh, actually, maybe I need to look into this now. Maybe I need to go deeper within to find my true north, how I am supposed to be going. And also what my purpose in this life is, what am I meant to be of service to do? I'm not just here doing the 9 to 5 for everyone and everything else. What purpose am I here for? And I think that's going to come up really, really quite a lot. And I know obviously astrology can tell you that, but also looking back at your childhood can give you that information as well. If I look back at my childhood, I loved kaleidoscopes. What do they have? Sacred geometry, patterns. And obviously with angelic Reiki I work with
Mhm.
geometry. I had a fascination with the sky. I'd loved cloud watching. I love looking at the stars, the moon, even persuaded my parents to buy me a telescope. What do I do now? I work with galactic energies.
Mhm.
I was an avid reader. I loved reading, telling stories, making up stories. What do I do now? I'm a guide for other people. I help guide them to tell their story. And of course, when we go back to that childhood where the my classmates asked me to come and make them safe, what do I do now? I hold space for people to be on their journey, and it's all stuff that when you look back at your childhood, you go, oh, actually, that all ties in really nicely. And when you look at my astrology, you can see those things. Um, in there. So, if you get your child's birth chart done, because you might just see some things that you can actually help encourage them in their life, or be aware of that you're not suppressing those ideas, those thoughts that the children might have.
Yeah, no, I think that it's all life is sort of a big game, really, in a lot of ways. And we tend to take it far more seriously than I think we are meant to. Of course, there are serious aspects, but I think if we are able to lighten up a little bit and look at it as a way to how do we have fun? How do we connect with people? Look for the joy in things. And that joy can just be as simple as going for a walk and admiring the light on the petals of a flower or you know connecting with your own sense of internal wonder, like why does X, Y, or Z happen in such and such a way. That can be such a key, like those simple thoughts that light us up can be such a huge key and catalyst for pointing us in the direction that we're meant to follow. um I've said for a long time that curiosity is probably the most undervalued human trait. And it's unfortunately, it's sort of squashed out of us in school because we're taught, oh, here's a formula for something. Oh, here's a book about something. And all those things are great. But I think that natural sense of wonder and curiosity really are key because everybody's going to be curious about something different. And if you follow that little silver thread of curiosity down the rabbit hole, like one person would take that rabbit hole one way, another person would take it a different way and come to maybe comparable conclusions, but they could even just be complementary to each other to make something even greater than the sum of its parts.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was has been my word this year. In January I came up with a word for the year, and it was curiosity, because it is one of those beautiful things. I was one of those kids that would go, why?
Mhm.
Why? Because I'm telling you, but why? I'd want answers. And as we do get older, and we do forget that curiosity, and it can bring you so many amazing things. But it also, if you can get into that mindset, I'm curious about this. So what if I do this? If I'm curious about this, what can it bring me? What can this be? What ideas can I come up with? Cats are curious. Um, and curiosity, they say curiosity killed the cat. Well, it didn't actually, because we've still got cats, and cats have got 9 lives. So maybe that's why they're curious. But if you look at cats, you know, they're curious about anything. And children, and babies are curious about everything. And as you said, we do have a habit of stifling that curiosity, when really curiosity and imagination, we should really be celebrating those, and allowing young people to actually blossom in those that explore safely, but allow them
Yeah.
to be curious and explore, because who knows what amazing things they could come up with. They could be the next Thomas Edison, or someone like that.
Yeah, I don't want to. I feel like I'm about to fall into the trap of like I'm worried about kids these days, or but I am just a little bit concerned for the kids in the generation that have grown up glued to a screen. Um, because it's such an artificial landscape and it's really very one-dimensional, whereas this actual world, the 3D reality that our physical bodies live in, at least, there's other dimensions of energies and like I believe there's life on other planets. Personally, I have past life memories of living my lives on other planets. So that's why I know they're out there or they were out there. Um, I don't know how it all connects. I don't have the evidence of it other than my own real memories that are just as real as my memories of going to the grocery store the other day, and some of these memories I remember more clearly than that trip to the grocery store. So like I mean, that's proof enough for me, I guess. But um, I think everybody can benefit from getting outside, getting their bodies moving, and being in nature because that's what we all come from. And if we can start to wonder about where we come from and how we connect with this planet, this environment, I think it's a really short jump to making a like just making a sympathetic connection between our environments and ourselves and our communities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've taken clients back in time into the future, and yes, it's not just been on this planet, it's been they've experienced other lifetimes, other planets, other dimensions. One of my previous lives, I was a tree spirit, a dryad.
Mm.
In a past life, hence why I have such a big connection to trees in this lifetime. But again, it was the curiosity of exploring that gave me all this insight, and the people that come to me that are willing to be curious about their past or their future. But what if?
Yeah, yeah.
I just love that. What if?
Hmm. Hmm. So tell us a little bit about what you've got going on for your launch. You've mentioned it a little bit but May 4th. What is it that you are working on?
Well, it's the Cell Path Discovery Program, and it's going to be a 4 month um, program with 8 2-hour sessions, where literally we are going to be going into your past, into your future. There's angelic Reiki healing, there's card readings, releasing baggage, finding gifts, talents, connecting with your higher self. So it's literally everything I've ever done myself that I've worked with clients that literally is coming into, one-to-one sessions. I've been working on it for a year or so, and it's never been the right time to do it. It's when I thought it, no, it's not quite. But it's now got to the point where it's literally, I've got the angels, the universe literally screaming at me, you need to get it out there now. And it's like, okay, I'm listening. I'm not going to not listen to you. You want me to get it out there, I will get it out there. So I'm really looking forward to doing that, to actually go deeper with people. Yeah, it's just going. I'm just so looking forward to working with that and energy. And that will, that is part of where I'm going now, because also my retreat property, I've known for a long time that I'm to have a retreat property where I don't just run my own retreats, but other people come in and run their retreats from it. And that is getting, that call is getting stronger and stronger. So by the end of this year, next year, I'm gonna have found and be running and living at my own retreat center. So it's all these steps that lead, that leading forward. And it's like, okay, well, the first step is you need to get this program out there, to take the next step to have the retreat property. So yeah, it's lots of things happening, and obviously I'm aware of all the different synchronicities, the different people coming into my life to actually help with that, and being open to it, and looking out. For the last few days, I keep finding the same type of feather in different places.
Ooh, what kind of feather? What does it look like?
It's a grey black feather.
Hmm.
And it's like, yeah, different places, different areas that this feather keeps appearing, where it shouldn't. I came out of my where my mum lives, and literally in the communal area there was this feather just sitting there,
Mhm.
far enough back that it couldn't have blown in. It was there.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, okay, I'm on the right. So, the angels are going, yeah, you're on the right path here. They keep sending me these feathers, because the angels, the universe, do send us signs when we're on the right path. I mean, everything moves easily anyway, and you meet the right people, you say the right things, the money comes in, you are in the right place. But also, you hear something on the radio, or you see something online, or you get these feathers, or you keep seeing angel numbers, you keep
Oh
seeing
yeah.
repeating numbers. Again, that's showing you that you're on the right path. Could
Angel
be
numbers.
coins.
Angel numbers are interesting. I drive a lot because I live in a national forest in the middle of nowhere. And so in order for me to go to the grocery store or go to doctors or see friends, I have to drive about at least 2 hours. It's like to go do that. So my life, I'm kind of at home for like a week and a half or so, and then I leave and I go somewhere else for a week or so, and then I come home and so I have this very sort of like on off on off life at the moment. But I drive all these long distances when I transition from North Carolina to wherever else. And it's funny, like I'll see angel numbers on license plates far more than I think the average person does. I have no like data to back it up, but almost every time I take a trip and have started to like write them down every time I like in my journal, I'm like, I saw this one today and I saw this one the other day when I was driving to Atlanta. I saw 555 three different times on three different cars. Um, and one was 555's five. So it was four fives. It was so I was like, "Geez, that is a lot of 555 energy happening." And I'll look them up and stuff, but like I'm not super well versed on what they all mean. Like I know each number carries a different frequency. I think five is change. If but I was like, well, okay, yeah, it's all things are always changing. And then the other day on the way home, it was 333. So it's funny how like different trips will be have different numerical themes for me. But I love a good feather message. There's something about the that I want to say etheric quality of birds in flight being close to the clouds in the spirit realm, and being messengers from the other side that I think is really like I'll get messages from birds. Whether it's an owl or an eagle, it doesn't like the species of bird isn't quite so relevant. But like I'll get messages from crows. It just kind of depends on the day and what the message is and who's sending it. But yeah, I love a good feather message.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I love crows and ravens. That's my favorite bird. And when I 5 years ago when I was 50, I kind of like said to the angels, really like a nice, I'd love a present from you, just give me thank you so much for a present. To let me know that you're thinking of me. I've been in this incarnation for 50 years. And literally, I came home and there was a black feather on my doorstep,
Oh, it was just for you then. Yeah.
just, just for me. So people ask angels, I talk to my angels constantly. In the morning I say good morning to my angels. In the evening I say good night to my angels. I thank them. I call on them every time. I'm always guaranteed a parking space. I'm always thank you, angels, for the most perfect parking space near to the shop today. And I'm in the car park, and they always give me a parking space. Thank you, angels, for giving me the most perfect journey to get from A to B. And that'll happen. So ask angels, ask them for signs, ask the universe for signs. It could even be clouds. You may suddenly keep seeing a cloud that, I don't know, looks like a flower or something. But again, it's being aware and being open to what's going on and what things come to you. Because I think sometimes we can be, again, with the computers and mobile phones and everything, we can be so closed off that we're not seeing the bigger picture and what is going on around us.
I think that's probably the case with most people out there. Because I think being present and conscious and aware of things that are going on energetically in your surroundings actually takes a lot of effort and a lot of presence of mind. And people, a lot of people who have been through trauma, and who are hurt or are dealing with some kind of disappointment. And life is full of them. I'm not saying it's not, but I think that people tend to distract themselves from themselves in order to just as a coping mechanism. And I want to, I think it's kind of endemic. People are so easily distracted by the next shiny new thing that they don't take the time to slow down and to connect with themselves, to connect with their higher selves and get grounded. And they end up creating more chaos, instead of just slowing down and being grateful for what they have in the moment, in that moment. Instead, they're on the phone, scrolling mindlessly, endlessly, and then subtly comparing themselves to the flashy, well-curated images that they see. And I think it's sort of a silent thing that has crept up on society since we've gotten smartphones, which has been, 15 years or so since that's happened.
Gosh,
I think the
yeah.
I think the iPhone came out in 2008. So we're getting close to 20 years of iPhones, right? 2007, 2008, something like that. And so we've got a couple of decades now of people who, and myself included, I'm not pointing fingers at other people. I'm pointing this finger at myself too. Um, but I see it, and I would like to think that I'm better than most, but I'm not perfect. But I certainly get lost in that. And I think it actually is doing me a disservice. And I think it does other people a disservice when we are so addicted to these little dopamine hits that we get when we open the phone and when we oh, somebody liked this picture that I took that I met one time at a bar or something, and that one thing like kind of makes you happy for 5 minutes, but then you want another one and another one and another one instead of, and that's all like artificial and manufactured, and it doesn't really uh help us along our way in some real profound sense all the time. Now, sometimes it can, but it's more the mindless scroll without intention that I'm talking about. Um, but I wish people would like get in like I wish the pendulum would swing the other way. I guess is what I'm saying. Like where yeah, we have the tool, but like let's be more mindful. Let's be more aware of how our actions and our energies are being fed because they're going to be fed one way or another. They're like but what we feed them, whether it's, focused meditative connection that is looking for purpose and alignment, or if it's looking for cheap thrills, like the energy will be very, very different. And we're getting
Yeah.
to a point where I think our intention is going to really start to matter much, much more.
Yeah. And I think the more we actually get outside, people actually start going outside, and appreciating how beautiful planet Earth Gaia is. How beautiful the animals are, the plants are, how other people, are actually are beautiful people as well. And meditation is such a big part of that. And you don't have, a lot of people go, yeah, but I don't have time for meditation, and we've still got those old stereotypes. And you see all the pictures, with people sitting there cross legs, hands like that. And that doesn't have to be meditation. And meditation can be walking out in nature. It can just be sitting quietly, do breathing in, breathing out, just doing that, you know. And I say to people who go, yeah, but I never have time, I never have time to just, even do breathing exercises. I never have the time to do it. And I always say, do you go to the bathroom?
Mhm.
Well, yeah. Do you sit on the toilet? Yeah. Have you got kids running around? Oh, no, no, I haven't got any kids. You've got your 5 minutes. Use it. Obviously, if you've got kids, that might be a little bit more difficult because they want to keep coming in, but
Yeah.
you can find time to even just do a couple of minutes breathing in, just breathing out, just to center yourself and make you more present so you can be aware of what's going on around you. And if you can do it outside, even better.
Mhm. I think grounding too, just walking barefoot in your yard if you can, or taking your shoes off in a park if you don't have a yard. Uh, Putting your bare feet on the surface of the planet can really help to ground your energetic system into a more sympathetic state with the planet's heartbeat. And I think, I mean, it's we're part of this ecosystem. I think, we kind of tend to forget that because things are so convenient for us now. But we are here on this planet because this planet is alive and lets us live here. I think she likes for us to be here for the most part, but we cannot abuse her. If we're in an abusive relationship with this planet, she will be done with us. And so, take your shoes off, go outside, walk around barefoot a little bit, and say thank you to this earth for supporting you. Meditation can look like a lot of different things. Um, for me, one of the most transformative meditation practices is just counting my blessings.
Mm.
It's really easy these days, especially with the politics and the media and all of that. It's really, really easy to get swept up in whatever new catastrophic headline they're trying to feed you. Um, and I think it's kind of an active rebellious revolution to turn that stuff off and to connect with your heart, your heartbeat, your breath, and your feet on the ground. And that doesn't cost anybody anything. And it can just be such a healing, free process, because no one has an agenda in that moment. And that's where you get to find your truth. That's where you get to hear the whispers from the universe. And you get to feel you, you know. Almost every place we go, like whether it's the grocery store, a movie theater, a store or something, somebody's trying to sell you something. And there's somebody who is getting something out of you being there. Um, and so look to the places that get nothing from you other than they're just existing. And I think those are the places where real magic happens and things are hiding and waiting for people to come discover and connect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, nature is such a beautiful, amazing thing. And if some like in the where I am now, we're in April, but we've had a couple of warmish days, but it's freezing today and it's been raining, and you can't get out barefoot. Just go and hug a tree, touch a tree.
Oh,
Obviously, ask its permission first. And again, that's another way of grounding you. Or grow indoor plants.
hmm trees are one of the rarest natural resources in the universe because we don't know we have found planets that have water. We have found planets that have they're covered in diamonds and they have rare earth minerals that we value really highly here. But we haven't found planets with trees. Not yet. I mean, I think they're out there, but I
Yeah.
haven't found them and they don't have the trees that we have. And so I mean, I live in a national forest and I feel really, really lucky that I'm looking out my window right now and all I see is trees.
I know. I'm so envious of that.
Well, one day I'll have a retreat and we can swap retreat spots because I miss living in England. I miss the UK a lot. There's a part of me that sort of is still there, I think, like energetically. I grew up. I mean, I moved to England when I was 20 years old. Never been out of America before, and I was like, I'm moving there. I have my suitcase. I sold all my stuff and left. And so I really kind of became a grown up in the UK, alone, figuring out how to, you know, live in a foreign country and make a life, make friends, get a degree, get jobs, all that kind of stuff. And so, like, England is very, very special to me and dear to my heart, and will always have a place in my heart. So any excuse to go back is good for me. Like, when can I get on a plane?
Excellent. And my retreat, when I do get it, the main criteria, which is the non-negotiable, is it's got to have trees. That is the non-negotiable about it, whether it's literally trees in my property or I'm next to a forest or a woodland, there has got to be trees.
Yeah.
actually. Even if I'm next door, there's got to be trees in the property grounds. Um, but yeah, that's a non-negotiable. But yeah, you should come back over to the to the UK, and I'd love to try, experience some of the forests that you have over there in America, because they are vast. We do have some big woodland areas, but yours over there just go on forever and ever and ever.
Yeah,
Um,
comparison. I feel very lucky right now because there was a forest fire in the forest across from me, in an area called Joyce Kilmer National Forest, which is where all the really old growth trees are. Because there's a lot of trees, but a lot of them were logged about 100 years ago. But then this Joyce Kilmer part of the forest that was preserved. Those have never been cut, so they're really ancient trees over there. But there was a lightning strike about a week and a half ago, and it started a small forest fire, which burned and burned and burned. It burned 1,000 acres, which is huge. Um, but I can't even see the burn spots because there's so many trees just over there. But it did rain the last couple of days, so the forest fire, thankfully, it's out. I was starting to get really nervous. Um,
yeah,
because I was standing on my deck talking to my friend in London, actually. Um, I'm getting ready to go to Europe later this year, so I'm organizing all that stuff. But this big black thing just sort of fell out of the sky, and I was like, "What is that?" And I walked over, and it was ash. It was ash,
wow.
the forest fire, and I was like, "Oh gosh, I really hope that that fire goes out." And 2 hours later, the rain came. So I was very lucky, You just never know. I mean, nature will have its way with us, one way or another. But I feel like in some ways I'm supposed to be here. Like this is supposed to be my home base, at least for now. But it does mean I get to travel a lot. I get to go back to Europe in June. I'm looking for, and maybe you know places, and we can talk offline about it, but I'm looking for places that might be interested in me having, like doing a lecture or something, in Europe while I'm over there. It would be nice to be able to kind of mix some business with pleasure while I'm on that side of the pond. So
Yeah,
maybe have
yeah,
a think
yeah,
if there might be
yeah.
a place you know of.
Yeah, I can definitely look into. I can definitely think of a couple of places that might be good for you. So yeah, we'll chat offline.
Perfect. Well, we're winding down. We're getting to the end of our time. Um, why don't you tell me your most memorable story or memory from your practices as on your adventures as a healer, as somebody who's facilitating other people on their journeys, just to wind us down.
Well, it was actually when I was training to be a future life progression practitioner and teacher, and I went into my next lifetime. And I've always kind of like known this in the back of my mind, and it has been confirmed by a reader and also by the Akashic records and by my own going into the future. And this is my last incarnation on Earth, hence why I've had that blessed path so far to be able to do my work, and why I chose to be born into a lineage where the women live till very, very old ages, because I'm going to be here till I'm at least 100 because I've got so much work to do, because my next lifetime, I'm not coming back. And when I went into my next lifetime, I went back into the cosmos, back into the universe, into the nebulous. And it was like coming home. It was like there was joy, love, just oneness with everything. It's so, so hard to explain, but it was just that feeling of being this vastness that's out there. It was just so, so amazing to be able to experience that and know how big everything is, but how small it is and the part we play in it. I was just a tiny bit of energy in that great big energy, but I felt so alive. So yeah, it's just hard to explain. And a couple of people I've taken into the future, they've experienced exactly the same thing, and it's just there are no words to explain it. There was just that acceptance, that being. Yeah, so it's absolutely amazing. When you allow yourself to explore and be curious.
Love it. Lovely. Well, where can people find you on the internet if they would like to book a session with you? What's the best way for people connect with you, Ray?
Probably would be my website, because I have everything on there, which is www.radiantangelenergy.co.uk. You can also sign up to a free gift where you can either a PDF to connect with your guides or your angels, or for a future life progression recording on there. And obviously, I put all everything that's coming up in my newsletter, and there is discounts and things on there. And on any social media under Radiant Angel Energy, you will find me on there. And obviously, I have my show Angels and Destiny, which goes out on YouTube and Gnostic TV. So yeah, just type in Radiant Angel Energy and you will find me. And of course, there's no one else that's got my name, Ray Calnan, either. So if you can't remember Radiant Angel Energy, then my name, it literally comes up.
And I will make sure to link it in the show notes when I post the show after it gets edited and out there for everybody to listen to. Thank you so
Beautiful.
much. Thank you so much for your energy and your time today. And I wish you all the best on your journeys. And please stay in touch because I can't wait to hear about your retreats and how everything just unfolds beautifully for you.
Yeah, no, that'll be wonderful. And again, thank you so much for having me on the show. And hopefully we'll meet in person at one point.
I think it'll happen. I have a feeling.
Me too.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Blood Moon Milk. Make sure to share it with your friends, book a session with me, or sign up for the Daily Dose, my daily email newsletter that tells you all about the most important astrology transits of the day. So you can have that over your coffee. Also makes a great gift. Ray, thank you so much for your time. And until next time, I wish you all the best the stars have to offer.